watching the English news here on Future Television. I'm Yuma Nofat, and these are your top stories. French police identified the first attacker involved in a series of assaults across Paris as Omar Ismail Mustafa. Interior Minister Nouhad al-Mashnout states that the Internal Security Forces informative branch was able to arrest within 48 hours the whole network that was responsible for the blast 2 days ago. And leaders of the world's 20 major economies begin arriving in Antalya, a heavily guarded Turkish resort where the fight against violence is likely to eclipse economics. Good afternoon to all our viewers. French police have identified the first attacker involved in a series of assaults across Paris, which left 129 people dead and over 200 people wounded. They identified him as Omar Ismail Mustafa, 29-year-old Paris native whose detached finger was found overnight at the Bataclan concert hall, the scene of the bloodiest attack. Now, the French citizen had been known to police for his alleged links to armed groups, but had not been previously linked to violent activities. Police are also holding 6 of Mustafa's relatives, stepping up their hunt for information following the killings. Authorities found several AK-47 assault rifles in the back of an abandoned seat car in an eastern suburb of Paris. Witnesses say the car found in Montreuil was used by attackers at multiple locations on Friday night. French authorities believe the attacks were planned abroad by the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant group, but have not yet confirmed the identities of others involved. So Facebook faced a large backlash in its decision to implement a safety check feature for the attacks in Paris, but failed to do so for Lebanon, known for multiple attacks and bombings in the last few years. Its owner, Mark Zuckerberg, basically was prompted a debate online and accused his critics of the site of valuing the lives of Western victims more than those in the Middle East. Now, a charge was disputed, and Mark Zuckerberg said there are other factors at play. The company did introduce a feature shortly after the coordinated attacks across Paris. Mark Zuckerberg assured everybody that this would usually be used for other nations as well. The function allows users in the Paris region to check in and let family members and friends know that they are safe. The company had previously only implemented the use of the feature after natural disasters such as the recent earthquake in Pakistan, for example. Leaders of the world's 20 major economies, known as the G20, have begun arriving in Antalya, a heavily guarded Turkish resort on the Aegean Sea, for a 2-day summit where the fight against violence is likely to eclipse economics. The meeting is taking place in the shadow of the Paris assaults, claimed by the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant group, which left at least 129 people dead and more than 350 others injured, 99 of them very critically. U.S. President Barack Obama arrived on Sunday at the airport of Antalya, a holiday destination bristling with as many as 30,000 police and security personnel to guard the G20 leaders. French President François Hollande has cancelled his attendance, and he is sending Laurent Fabius, the foreign minister, to represent him. Now, although the G20 usually focuses on economic issues, the president of host country Turkey, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, is urging world leaders to prioritize the battle against ISIL, saying the attacks in Paris prove the time for words is over. For his part, former President Nicolas Sarkozy called for the creation of a single international coalition to combat ISIS in Syria following the attacks in Paris. Speaking at a news conference during the G20 meeting, UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon said he welcomed the renewed sense of urgency to find a solution to the war in Syria after the attacks, adding the world has a rare moment of diplomatic opportunity to end violence. Take a look.
Of violent extremism, strong actions in the name of humanity. That is why, as I urge the participants to move beyond their differences so that they can push for a nationwide ceasefire, combat terrorism, and address key governance and constitutional issues. After years of division, this is a rare moment of diplomatic opportunity to end the violence and advance the search for a negotiated political solution in the world. And there should be a priority for this summit. We will be discussing terrorism at this summit. I will stress to world leaders that our response needs to be robust, but always within the rule of law and with respect for human rights. Otherwise, we will only fan the fire we are trying to put out. Developed countries must keep their pledge to provide 100. I also count on G20 leaders for support as we address the biggest crisis of forced displacement since the Second World War. This is not only a crisis of numbers, it is a crisis of global solidarity. I pay tribute to Turkey, Jordan, and Lebanon for hosting over 4 million Syrian refugees. We must ensure enhanced support to these and other countries accommodating the greatest numbers of refugees.
Bavarian allies cranked up pressure on German Chancellor Angela Merkel to reverse her open-door refugee policy, saying the deadly attack in Paris underlined the need for tougher measures to control the influx of migrants. The coordinated assault in the French capital, in which at least 129 people were killed, has fueled a debate over Merkel's welcoming approach to refugees and on how to get better intelligence about people entering the country. The holder of a Syrian passport found near the body of one of the gunmen who died in Friday night's attacks passed through Greece in October, a Greek minister said, and another suspected attacker was thought to have entered Europe the same way. The days of uncontrolled immigration and illegal entry cannot continue just like that. Paris changes everything, Bavarian Finance Minister Markus Söder told Wait am Sonntag newspaper. He added that Germany reimposed border controls on September 13th and decided to extend them beyond an initial limit of 2 months foreseen by Schengen rules, using a clause that permits stretching checks to a minimum of 6 months. In Lebanon, Interior Minister Nuhad Mashnout states that the Internal Security Forces Information Branch was able to arrest within 48 hours the whole network that was responsible for the Burj Brajne blast. The security forces are doing everything in their possible capacity in light of the political dispute, Mashnout said in a press conference, while investigating and showing that the attack was planned to take place in the Al-Rasul Al-Azam hospital with 5 suicide attackers. However, the assailants changed plans because of the security measures. He assured that security forces will not cease to pursue terrorism and the terrorists. The network included 7 people in addition to the suicide attackers. It is clear that there is a major decision to carry out bombings in Lebanon, he added. This comes, of course, after twin suicide bombings rocked the area of Burj Brajne south of Beirut on Thursday, killing at least 46 and wounding more than 200. Lebanon's Foreign Minister Jabran Bassil is urging the international community not to waste any time in confronting terrorism, saying the recent ISIS-claimed attacks in Beirut and Paris may be linked. Speaking at the international talks on Syria in the Austrian capital of Vienna, Bassil said it was time to take concrete action against terrorists instead of arguing on details.
They chose the timing before our meeting and they hit 2 countries that are similar in diversity, France and Lebanon. And their message is that they don't fear us, they don't want us to find a solution for Syria. They don't care if we put them on our list of terrorists or no, because they will hit us no matter what we do and wherever we are. And our response to them should be by concrete actions, not arguing on details, who is the terrorist and who is not. We all agree on some groups of terrorists and we should take action now, because the aim of the terrorists is to spread terror and to spread chaos. That's what they are trying to do in the Middle East, and now that's what they are trying to do in Europe. Spread chaos through their theory of the management of savagery. This is how they kill, and this is how they can rule any country. So I believe that it is time to take real action, or else they will mock us and they will come up stronger of our meeting.
The double suicide attack that killed at least 46 people in a southern Beirut suburb earlier this week only increases Hezbollah's determination to fight ISIS in Syria, according to party chief Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah. Nasrallah also denounced the brazen attacks in a video report. He said that the attacks against venues in Paris by a squad of gunmen and suicide bombers that ISIS also took credit for, leaving at least 129 people dead. The bombings, he said, will increase our determination. We will go in search to open fronts with ISIS. He warned 2 days after a pair of suicide bombers blew themselves up in the suburb of Burj Brajne. The ISIS-claimed attack here in Beirut, which also wounded more than 200, was widely condemned by all Lebanese, including Hezbollah's rivals, offering a rare moment of national solidarity in the deeply divided society. Future movement leader and former Prime Minister Saad Hariri says he is eager to find a solution to end the presidential vacuum, provided it meets the will of the Lebanese. Hariri tweeted that the presence of a president preserves the executive authority and the electoral law necessary to avoid thwarting strife in Lebanon and prevent the country from being dragged into surrounding wars. He reiterated his solidarity with the victims of the Burj Brajne blast, saying it is a moral and national responsibility to stand with the people of Lebanon, and the Lebanese people must remain united. Coming up next, Pope Francis says using God's name to justify violence is a blasphemy. Stay with us. Welcome back to our viewers. You're watching the 4:20 o'clock news here on Future Television. After the deadly attack in Paris claimed by ISIS, Pope Francis said using God's name to justify violence was sacrilege. Addressing thousands of pilgrims in St. Peter's Square, the Pope then invited the faithful to pray with him for the innocent victims of the attacks. It was the first time the Pope had spoken directly to the general public about the Friday attacks, though in a radio interview on Saturday he characterized the assault as inhuman. A grim discovery has been made in the Iraqi town of Sinjar as Kurdish fighters who claimed victory over the Islamic State of Iraq and the group Levant entered the war-torn country and found at least one mass grave containing the bodies of Yazidis. Iraqi Kurdish Peshmerga fighters said they dug up bones, hair and personal items, evidence of what they said was ISIL brutality. Hussein Hafoun, an advisor to the Kurdish regional government, said the grave found by the Peshmerga contains 76 bodies, including that of young women. Hafoun said the attack occurred on August 15, 2014, and that it could qualify as a genocide. Young girls who escaped from ISIL reportedly told investigators about the details of the mass killing. Those are your end of stories today. Let me remind you of our headlines. French police identified the first attacker involved in a series of assaults across Paris as Omar Ismail Mustafa. Interior Minister Nuhad Mashnout states the Internal Security Forces was able to arrest within 48 hours the whole network responsible for Burj Brajne. And leaders of the world's 20 major economies begin arriving in Antalya, a heavily guarded resort where the fight against violence is likely to eclipse economics. Those are your Sunday headlines live on Future Television. I'm Yumna Naufa signing off. Have a good week.